Welcome to another episode of Bunker Live. And yeah, Bunker Bunker Labs is a weekly live show brought to you. Basically, the show is a weekly live show brought to you by Bunker Labs. It's a national network of veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs dedicated to helping the military connected community start and grow their businesses. This is we're here every week. We're a little late this week, but we're here with Natalie Michel, and super excited to talk about marketing. And before we jump in, I want to have Mike Stedman read off who our sponsors are.
What's going on, everyone? Apologies for the technical delay. We're still figuring out this live thing and getting this video show going, so we appreciate y'all's patience. Shout out to my co-host, Mr. Kai Blakely. But we also want to shout out our sponsors for making this show possible, as well as all of our content at Bunker Labs. And so, first, I want to acknowledge the MetLife Foundation and the Gannett Foundation. MetLife Foundation is committed to supporting veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs. In addition, the foundation also provides mentorship and financial health resources to veterans and military spouses transitioning into the workforce. A Community Thrives, a program fueled by the Gannett Foundation and part of the USA Today network, invest in community building initiatives across the country with the goal of creating a positive change through services to historically marginalized or under-resourced groups. And again, it's important for us to acknowledge these sponsors, MetLife and Gannett, because all the great work, all the great content we're doing out here at Bunker, it requires talent and it requires funding, and we wouldn't be able to do without them. So we appreciate them. And then, as many of you know, I am the host of the podcast, The Transition, where we demystify the entrepreneur experience for veterans and military spouses of early stage startups and small businesses. I like to think this podcast is essential listening for those of us within the Bunker Lab community, those of us that are veteran entrepreneurs, military spouses, because I wish a podcast like this existed when I was first starting out. You've got the How I Built This, you've got the what's the other one, Masters of Scale, right? You've got all these really high profile podcasts. One of the nice things about us here at Bunker is we like to really get in the weeds and be a little bit vulnerable. So it's real easy when you see people posting on LinkedIn looking like they're amazing. You see people in Forbes and you're sitting in your, one bedroom or your grandma's basement and you're saying like, am I really an entrepreneur? I feel like a fraud. And more often than not, when I come across other veteran entrepreneurs and military spouses in the ecosystem, it's a common trend. A lot of us are hustling. We're figuring it out, right? And those are the stories that we want to tell. We want to know how to go from zero to hero. And sometimes that starts with making that first sale or that first 10 sales, and then we can figure everything else out along the way. So really appreciate you all for tuning in with us week over week. Please check out the podcast. And we're excited to jump in today's live series with you. And I have the privilege of, I would like to call my colleague, right? Natalie
yeah.
from Nouvel Media. And one of the interesting things about Natalie, right? Natalie comes from a business, I'm going to say analytical background, marketing and analytics. So she looks at the data. A lot of that entrepreneurial insight survey that you see when we're doing interviews for personas within Bunker about who we target, she's like a whiz at that. And so, the Bunker Live team just felt like she'd bring a breadth of knowledge and insight for today's live session. So without further ado, let's welcome Natalie on the platform. What's going on, Natalie?
Thank you so much for having me, Mike and Kai. I really appreciate being here. So today I'm going to walk you through how to build a marketing strategy and plan that is practical and actionable, and how to measure those results in less than 10 minutes.
Awesome. Before we do that, can you just give, I know I might have butchered, your intro, but can you give the viewers just a little bit more insight about your background and the work you've done with Bunker up to this point?
Yeah, of course. So I've been working with Bunker for the last 3 years. I was formerly the marketing strategy director, and now I'm the head of business analytics and intelligence. So not only do I get to work with marketing, but I'm also going to be able to work with a lot more departments cross-functionally to be able to solve some of the problems across the org, so we can continue to grow the organization and expand our community and impact. And then on the side, I am currently the founder and director of marketing of Nouvel Age Media.
What other companies have you worked for outside of like Bunker? What are some other kind of companies?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've had the opportunity to work with General Mills. I've worked with a company called Grazi, which is basically a sampling company. I've worked with Walmart. I've worked with Blue Buffalo, the pet company, through some of the partnerships. I'm currently working with LinkedIn, so that's been a huge pleasure of mine. Yeah, I've worked in various industries, various initiatives, working with everything from like large corporations to small business owners and startups. So I have a wide range of experience.
Awesome. All right. So, we've talked before. I've given like a basic, like how to do a marketing plan, my own little framework called dog whistle branding. And I think I talked about perfect customer, building a whistle, whether it's this or a podcast, and then having your brand out in. But we're real interested in hearing your insights about how to develop a marketing plan.
Yeah, of course. So digging into it, I would say the number one thing is making sure that you start out with a problem statement. So identifying like what problem you're trying to solve so that you have a fundamental understanding of how you're going to fulfill those business objectives or those sales objectives with your marketing strategy. And this will kind of lead at the forefront of, the foundation of everything you're going to hope to accomplish and aim to accomplish with your marketing strategy and plan. After you define your problem statement, you want to dig into defining what your SMART goals are, and how to measure those goals. So establishing some KPIs and metrics to define, okay, well, what does success look like? How am I going to go from point A to point B? And at what point am I going to reevaluate this strategy or this marketing plan if it's not working? Or if it is working, then you can go ahead and boost those goals. You can go ahead and set them higher. And then from there, you're going to transition into conducting a situational awareness. So you're going to want to know, okay, what's currently happening in my ecosystem that could potentially drive opportunity? What is currently happening in my ecosystem or in my niche that, that might threaten my business? How can I turn those threats into an opportunity and eventually strength? It's really good at this time to have a fundamental understanding of what's been working for your business and what hasn't been working for your business by running a marketing audit. So auditing all of your marketing initiatives from a specific period of time, so that you can have that learning experience through the data of like, okay, this is what went very well, this is what resonated with my audience, and this is what didn't work. And for those of you that have never ran a full-on marketing initiative, so it's like brand new, you're going to start from the beginning. At this point, you can actually run an audit on some of your competitors, having a fundamental understanding of like what's working for them and what's not working for them, so that you can learn some of those tactics and strategies and apply them into your own strategy and make it your own. From there, I would say digging into like who you are, what you do, and how that relates to the 4 P's of marketing, which are product, price, place, and promotion. So you want to have a fundamental understanding of like, okay, how is my product fundamentally different than my competitors? What makes it better? What's going to make my audience tick and say yes? And being able to list out, what's the lowest price I'm willing to go? What's going to be the highest price that my consumers are willing to pay? Are they price sensitive? Where exactly are my consumers going to be able to find and convert into buying my product or my service? Is it going to be different than where I'm promoting it? And then also thinking about the promotion side of things. What channels do your audiences use the most to consume information? What kind of messaging tends to be more effective with them? Just thinking about those little things so that, at the end of the day, we are building a marketing strategy. So our customers are always going to be at the forefront. So these are the types of questions that we want to answer by having that fundamental understanding of who our audience is. And from there, I would say, of course, running a full-on competitor analysis, taking, a set of 3 competitors, maybe more, and having a fundamental understanding of what they're doing. Run a SWOT analysis, identify what their strengths and weaknesses are, what are their threats, how can you take those weaknesses and threats and essentially use them in your business and convert them into a strength for yourself. So something that they're not doing well, how can you do it better to increase your market share or to increase your ROI or your sales? And then from there, you're going to get into the planning section, which is the fun part. So what does the next year for you look like? What does Q1 look like for you versus Q2? What are you hoping to accomplish? What are some milestones in your plan that are going to supplement your strategy so that you can attain those goals and objectives? And then after you have your fundamental plan, you're going to want to identify a process for evaluation. At what point in time are you going to evaluate the effectiveness of your strategy? Is it going to be on a quarterly basis? Is it going to be on a semi-annual basis or in an annual basis? So that you can have that fundamental understanding of like what's working and what's not working, so that you can pivot and you can respond to the reactions of your customers or what's happening in your ecosystem or with your strategy in real time instead of waiting until it's too late.
So there's a lot to unpack there. All right. So I want to kind of start at the beginning. One thing we talked about was, I think sometimes the terms, right? So when we say smart, right, we're talking about what does SMART stand for? Remind me, for like SMART
Yeah.
goals.
So it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time specific.
So like literally writing stuff out, having a time frame you're setting for it, how you're going to be able to judge the results, right? And so it's just beyond anecdotal. It's like, how are we winning the day, right? Simple, smart.
Exactly.
And then the KPIs, you're talking about key performance indicators, right? So
Yes.
indicators that let us know we're getting closer. So for example, let's say I don't know, I need to have 3 sales calls a week, 3 prospects a week, right? What are the indicators that's happening, right? Is it like, maybe I'm getting email pings, people are reaching out to me, they're getting on my calendar, right? It's just a way of gauging and making sure that we're on track. Now, at a high level, when we think of strategy is like putting on the brain, right? It's like we all have these strategic ideas. Like we want to go to the moon. So we're going to do a little of this, a little of that, a little of this, right? But one of the things I've noticed, myself included, where a lot of us mess up is the execution, So we'll put down this great strategy. We're going to do this, and this. And then at the end of 30 days or 90 days or whatever, we feel like we've only accomplished like 10% of what we set out to do. So talk to us about how do we actually execute on these marketing strategies? Because I was just talking to Kai, in the green room before this of, man, it can get overwhelming. Because even just hearing you talk about the marketing, I'm hearing it and it makes complete sense to me. But our listeners are probably saying like, yo, I'm like a 1-person show. And I work a full-time job and I live in my basement, so it's like, how am I going to get all of this done?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really, really great question. So, and a very great point. So basically, once you identify your plan, you are going to want to integrate that plan into like a project management system and then set those realistic timeframes on that project management system. If you can accomplish 3 things in Q1, then set a realistic timeline and start implementing those things. If your first step is to, reach out to those that are qualified leads, then that's going to be your first step. Get on the phone with them. That might be step 2. Have a follow-up with them. That might be part 3 if you are focused on lead generation. I would say for implementation as a one-woman show for about like 2 years, that was my biggest struggle. However, I found that, just being realistic with myself of what I can accomplish within a certain time frame allowed me to be a lot more successful, because there have been times where I thought I could do everything to build my business and I failed utterly. And that was because I didn't take the step back to be realistic with myself of what I could really accomplish, and celebrate those milestones, because you don't have to accomplish so much in a short period of time. Those small milestones are huge milestones.
Can you talk to us about some successful marketing campaigns you've seen go from like idea to full on execution and get the results that y'all sought out?
Yeah, of course. So this is a really great case study. We recently wrapped this one up. So we had a client for about over a year. Social media marketing was their predominant channel. So naturally, we created a social media marketing strategy for them. That was their primary way to generate leads, to build their community, and to get conversions. After working with them for about 10 months straight, defining the strategy, defining what their branding is, building out a roadmap of what steps we were going to take to supplement our strategy in 10 months, we were able to grow their community by 65,000 members through organic social media alone. We had nearly over 500,000 leads through organic social media alone. And that was through a lot of affiliate marketing, which we did. which they partnered up with organizations like Cheerios and Walmart, Blue Buffalo, just a lot of different organizations to hand out sampling products to find the right customer and pair that right customer with large corporate brands who might not have that brand relationship with their customers. So they don't have that human-centric relationship because they're too busy being on the shelves of large corporations like a Walmart or like a Target. So they're not able to establish that one-on-one connection with their customers. So that I would say that was probably one of our most successful accounts. Recently, we had a campaign with them where we ran the General Mills. It was a snack time, anytime box, and we were able to reach over 1 million consumers and build our audience by 20,000 users, which was a really huge success, not only on Facebook, but on Instagram as well.
That's amazing. And so what you're talking about is finding, I call those channel partners. You know, it's like mutual interest, you know, where by helping them win, you win. So finding someone that basically had a good or service that your community kind of wanted, or a community that you were trying to tap in. And so you partnered together and you both were able to grow mutually.
Exactly. And that's really what it's about. It's about testing, exploring your options, and also partnering up with other organizations, or even just partnering up with other people to expand your network, to tap into their network and allow them to also tap into your network. So it's sort of like a win-win.
Now, have you seen a marketing plan and strategy go south? And what can you do to prevent it from happening?
Oh my gosh, yes, I have. Unfortunately, yes. So what you can do to prevent it is honestly being realistic with your goals and not trying to rush into anything. I recently worked on a project where we were launching a new course. Unfortunately, we were pushed back on multiple timelines due to various factors, internal and external factors. And you throw COVID into the mix, which, you know, of course, it's going to cause unprecedented times in this dynamic business world. And so, yeah, unfortunately, we ended up not meeting our goals. We didn't make all the sales that we wanted. We didn't sell out on the VIP experience. And unfortunately, you know, some of the things that really played into this was, you know, being realistic with what we could attain and being time specific and having a fundamental understanding of our customers. The campaign was launched without having a defined target audience, which made it a lot harder to connect with audiences and existing audiences. So instead of, you know, tapping into someone who's already interested, we were trying to tap into new audiences who may have never even been exposed to the product and may not even have that ideal need.
Right. So making sure, again, identifying the problem that you're solving and just making sure that like you're going after the right people in the first place, because that can waste a lot of time and resources in general. And we're guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. We've all done this, but we've all had to learn through experience. So in wrapping up, you know, your high level talk on marketing, what are 3 takeaways you would like our audience to walk away with today on how to implement a successful marketing strategy and plan?
Yeah, I would say the first step is defining SMART goals. You know, be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time specific. Be honest with yourself and what you can achieve. And then really define a roadmap. Like, how are you going to reach success? What are the steps you're going to take to become successful with that marketing strategy? And then the third key takeaway is have an evaluation process and have a contingency plan. If it doesn't go out the way you wanted it to, what are going to be some alternative paths so that you can become successful in the future? What's going to be your process to document these learning lessons so that you don't repeat them and you can grow from them?
Awesome. Well, Natalie, you're a breath of knowledge, and thank you so much. And again, you know, this is the kind of talent working behind the scenes here at Bunker to get it right. A lot of, again, the Entrepreneurial Insight Survey, you know, the personas, all that kind of stuff. She's been leading the charge on that. And so, again, we thought it'd be great to get her on here. So thanks again, Natalie, for joining Bunker Live today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Natalie.
Now, what I'm going to do is next, we're going to go ahead and I want to go to my book recommendation. Okay. Now, typically I do business books, right? Like I think last week I did Fix This Next. And, you know, I'm a big fan of Mike McCallowitz, but I want to change it up a little bit. And this week I want to recommend David McCullough's The Wright Brothers. All right. Now, you're probably saying, Mike, this is a history book. Why are you recommending this? If you know the story of the Wright brothers, and how they built the first airplane and the process they went through it. This book was probably one of the first like entrepreneurial books I ever came across, you know, and this was before I knew anything about MVP, right? Minimum viable product, you know, not going all in, testing, all this kind of stuff. And literally, this is what these guys did. You know, the Wright brothers were like they owned a bicycle shop in like Ohio, but they came up with this idea that they wanted to build the first, you know, airplane, and they tested it themselves. They funded it themselves, you know, and they were actually going against the federal government. There was a lot of people trying to get in on this, and they just couldn't get it right. But these guys, through their processes, you know, they would go out to a place called Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, where they knew they had good wind. And every summer they would test there to get this plane going. And they failed miserably. Probably like a lot of y'all out there, like me too, failing all the time, just taking L's every day. Wake up, just take an L. But eventually they were able to take flight and built, you know, the first, you know, the aircraft. And so this book is super inspirational. I feel like there's a ton of value that people can get from it. I first listened to it on Audible. I'm going to do a reread of it, but I went back and was digging through some books, and I was like, man, I need to read this again. I need some inspiration. So again, my recommendation is David McCullough's The Wright Brothers. Highly recommend it. Check it out. Let me know what you think. You know, send us a message, and hopefully this inspires you all out there. So next we're going to do is I'm going to invite my other co-host on the platform, Carrie Sue, who's going to give us an update of what's going on in the bunker this week and the coming weeks. Carrie?
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. So we've got several in-person and virtual events that you all can attend. If you're in Wilmington, North Carolina, we have an in-person Bunker Connect networking event tomorrow, Wednesday, May 12th at 5:30 Eastern. And they're going to focus mostly on how to structure your business. So if you have any sort of business tax questions, you don't want to miss this. The next thing we have this week is on Thursday, May 13th at 3 p.m. Eastern. We have a nationwide virtual networking event with the inspirational speaker, NFL star Carl Mecklenburg, followed by a meet and greet with our Veterans and Residents 21A cohort members. Again, that is virtual, so anyone across the nation can attend that one. Monday, if you are in the Houston area, we have an in-person event that will also be live streamed for those that want to join virtually. We will have a virtual panel Monday, May 17th from 10:30 to 12:30. And that will be a panel of veteran entrepreneurs discussing how their tactical training helped them become entrepreneurs. And then for those that are in Houston, there will be some actual tactical training exercises from 12:30 to 2:30, led by an expert marksman. So space is limited for that. So if you're in Houston, go ahead and sign up for that now. And then finally on May 20th in Pittsburgh at 6 p.m., there will be an in-person Bunker Connect for those to network there in Pittsburgh. So that is all for the next couple weeks.
Awesome. Thanks, Carrie. Awesome. Now, Kai, I want to do a little bit of Audible since we started late, but while we have people tuned in and we've got Natalie on, I want to open it up for questions. We got a couple minutes for questions.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions for Natalie on how to implement a successful marketing strategy and plan, please go ahead and drop those in the chat. And to avoid awkward silence while we wait for those questions to pop up, Kai, how about you ask Natalie a question? I'm gonna put Kai.
Natalie. What platforms? You know, you talked about a lot of different steps that people need to be keeping their eye on, but a lot of these translate into tools these days. What tools, what platforms are you like most excited about or using right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I use a variety of platforms, but to start, I would say just writing down your plan either on a note piece of paper or even like a G-Doc or a Word doc, and then from there transitioning that plan into like a solid roadmap on like a project management system like Asana or Monday. I use both. Huge fan of Asana though. So that's kind of my number one step. And then I would say also having like a CRM system so that you can keep track of your leads, whether that's through ActiveCampaign or through Dynamics or through Salesforce. I would say those are probably like the 3 core platforms to start out with. from the beginning. So that one, you are captivating your plan and you can execute on it. And then two, you're captivating your leads and you have a fundamental understanding of who those leads are and what interactions they're having with your company, whether it's on your website or with yourself, etc.
So I actually have a question too. There's a lot of noise online today, right? Like everyone is online. Everybody's working online, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we see things like ad spend and all this other stuff, right? Like, is it even beneficial for like a one person, maker, to try to invest money into like ad spend on social when they can't compete with like these bigger brands that are dropping, God knows how much money in the space?
Oh, that is a really great question. So I would say if you're bootstrapped, you don't necessarily have to invest in like Facebook ads, but I would say definitely probably invest in SEO or like SEM, right, Carrie? What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I would think that you would start with SEO and SEM just because that is something that you can do yourself that doesn't actually, you don't have to actually pay for that. And that is going to be optimizing your website. That's optimizing your social media channels and just getting the word out. I would say that then you would probably go, depending on your vertical and what your product or service is, looking at what channels provide the biggest ROI for you. Is that LinkedIn? Is that Facebook? Is that Instagram? And if you do have an opportunity to put some ad dollars towards that, really focus on those channels where your audience is and make sure that you're spending whatever money you can on those channels and not wasting others. But that would be last resort as someone that is, a solopreneur or, a one person or two person show.
So basically, if I'm selling, I don't know, topical creams to elderly people, they may or may not be on TikTok or Instagram, shooting 15-minute, music dance clips.
Correct.
Exactly. Yeah. You want to find where your audience is and make sure that you are tailoring your communications and, your ads and your posts to that particular audience.
All right, we got a question. So I want to give Josh a chance. He says, earlier we mentioned companies becoming just another product of the shelf at Walmart. Do we find this the same at Amazon?
Ooh, that is a great question. I can totally see Amazon morphing into like a Walmart, but just like on the online space. And I definitely think that at that point in time, that's kind of where you get that issue where there's just so many products, there's so much noise, like kind of when you're walking through a corporate organization to go shopping like a Target or a Walmart. And I think that's when, having that authentic brand to consumer relationship is going to come into play so that you can continue to generate more sales, have that bond, increase your customer lifetime value so that you can continue to generate that revenue that you want.
And I think it'd also be worth mentioning that you also want to think about what is easier for your customers.
Yes.
So you might take some hit on margin, but you might make it up in volume because it's just so much easier to purchase. They're already used to purchasing, their products and service or goods from Amazon versus having to adopt some new platform. But this is where we go back into the strategy. This is chess, not checkers. It's like, hey, what are the benefits of having my product listed on Amazon, which has this access to God knows how many, and it's just so simple to swipe your credit card and get paid. I mean, have it come to you versus, oh, I got to trust this new thing. But this is where you come into it, thinking outside the box.
Yeah. And staying fluid, going back to what Carrie had said, being able to stay fluid. You might have an idea of who your target audience is, and then you start selling on Amazon. You're like, oh, TikTok's not the place I need to be. I need to be on MySpace or something.
Right. And then it goes back to what you said before about, testing. So you say, okay, I'm gonna put this product up on Amazon. How many sales do I need to hit in a certain amount of time before I know whether this was good or not? If it took me, I don't know, 3 quarters to sell, 100 products and I put up on Amazon, I sell 100 products within a week. It's like, hey, maybe this is a good move. So just stuff to think about. But Josh, I appreciate the question. And as we continue to do these lives, right, come with questions, right? Even if you just like, I have a question, I'm gonna hold it for next week. Whatever, just come to live and ask a question because, if we don't have the answers, we'll do our best to find it out. And I know I owe the community a book list book list from last week. So apologize on the delay for that. But I think this wraps up this session of Bunker Live. Again, we appreciate y'all tuning in. Really, this show was meant to support and engage the community. So your feedback is always Greatly appreciated. Let's give Natalie a round of applause for joining us today, dropping that knowledge bomb. We got her here on the team at Bunker. And then also, again, humbly ask, I need to impact 10,000 veteran entrepreneurs and military spouses before the end of the year on the Transition Podcast. I can't do that alone. The only way I'm be able to do that is by you all subscribing, reviewing, and sharing the show with others in your network. This is a big lift, but I know we can do it because it's needed right now. A lot of people are struggling, a lot of uncertainty going on in the world, and hopefully tuning into the podcast, tuning into this live show, let you know that you're not out there alone and that the Bunker community is here to support. So until next week, everyone, peace, love. Have a great rest of your week. On behalf of the Bunker team, keep kicking butt. That's my inspiration for the week. Keep kicking